he's called it a whitewash. I mean, he's calling the
Challenging the
legal
king's
profession
courts.
in this country, where his father is the head of state, as a whitewash, as one of the most senior judges in the country. So, I have no doubt there is no desire to bring him back into the fold, and I think we are a long way off from that ever happening.
Hi all, Kinsey Schofield here. Welcome to Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. I am so excited because in real life, I'm meeting one of my favorite royal reporters, authors, Russell Myers. We were talking about William and Catherine, the monarchy's new era, and so much has happened since the release of that book.
For sure.
I said, can I tease that there might be, am I allowed to say?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so I had asked you when I saw you in the green room, I said, are we getting an update? Because I feel like a lot of exciting things, very positive things have happened surrounding the Wales family since you initially released this book. And you said, yeah, I'm working on it.
For sure, yeah. I mean, the book went right up to December. I mean, we were very lucky with the publication. There was so much that had happened at the last 6 months of last year, but look at what's happened since then. I mean, it's been incredible. And like you say, it's been really good news. We've seen the Princess of Wales back to international duties. I was in Italy with her. She was looking fantastic. She's really energised about the future. We've seen her doing the Three Peaks Challenge. I mean, so I wouldn't be putting myself up for that. It seems an incredibly grueling task.
Yeah.
But, with the family look very, very united despite whatever else is going on. George is, coming of age, leaving school, going to big school soon. So lots to look forward to for them, I think.
I'm talking to you during a tsunami of Prince Harry headlines here in the United Kingdom. And you just said the family looks so united. We've seen multiple engagements this week from the Prince and Princess of Wales, the King in a tank, Queen Camilla with Winnie the Pooh. They really do look unbothered. That would be very difficult for me. And then we saw Harry lose his court case, immediately have to do a speech. He did not look unbothered. He looked defeated. You've researched, you've studied, you're very well respected when it comes to this topic of the royal family. What kind of grit does it take to be able to stay above the fray in a situation like this? Because you're right, they look blissful, they look happy to be there, they look committed to the job, and I couldn't fake it. I'd be bothered by some of the stuff going on, the static that is Harry and Meghan.
Well, for sure. I mean, Harry couldn't fake it himself, could he? Because he looked very flustered and bothered, and no doubt having to go on stage just a few moments after receiving that devastating news that he'd lost his court case against Associated Newspapers, really, it was telling on his face. I mean, this has been very coordinated by both houses this week. I think you look at the King presenting the medals to servicemen and women who had just come back from active service. You've had the Princess of Wales and the Prince of Wales out and about, as well as the Queen. I mean, this shows you a family that is united, and I think that we can see that not only in real time, but we know that from their actions. I mean, look at the Prince and Princess of Wales. They've got no time for Harry whilst he's in the UK. The King has been very bothered by his behaviour, certainly his actions not replying to this invitation of staying at Buckingham Palace, and certainly messing the aides about. This is something you can't do. I mean, we wouldn't do this in our family. Can you imagine telling your mother that you might tell her whether you're coming over for Sunday lunch and waiting to the Saturday night? I mean, it's just absolutely appalling behaviour. So I think for the family, they really want to draw a line under this, and being united and working together is very much a part of that.
That's right. That's important that you're saying that they're working together. I mean, behind the scenes, there has to be a strong support system, not only between the Prince and Princess of Wales and Queen Camilla and King Charles, but I read some of the stories about this war between King Charles and Prince William, but Harry says himself in the first chapter of Spare that he's waiting to meet them, I believe, after the funeral of Prince Philip, and he's so caught off guard by the way that they approach him, and they seem to be one. And he says he's grown up all of his life with there being friction between these two, and in this one case, they're united, and it kind of throws him off. Do you believe that the King and Prince William, especially after a week like this week of Harry briefing against the family, the palace, do you think that there is probably a strong sense of unity between these two men.
Without a doubt. I mean, you look at what happened at that particular juncture, and what they did was kill him with kindness. And that is exactly what you should do with people when there's friction. I mean, that is how to stop it dead. And Harry came into that arena after the Oprah Winfrey interview, was expecting a very tense atmosphere, and it didn't really work like that. He was the one bringing the friction once again. And I think that certainly the Princess of Wales has had a part in this as well, talking to not only William, but Harry in that period of saying, you know, this is something that can't be allowed to go on. I mean, how many years are we down the track now and we're still talking about it? They're still having to deal with Harry making statements or, you know, veiled mentions of the fact that his family have pushed him out once again. And it just didn't need to be like this. I mean, take this week, for example. Nothing needed to be said. They could have easily come over to Britain. They could have easily flown in, be driven through the palace gates, stayed there for a couple of days, go to Althorpe. I mean, people would leave them alone. It always brings me back to what Meghan said about, you know, dozens of paparazzi outside Archie School. I mean, this sort of concept of reality is just not what happens these days. And so I think they've got a bit carried away and allowed themselves to be so caught up in this, you know, fury that they've built up. It's very, very unfortunate. But, you know, but with the King and the Prince of Wales, I mean, talk about unity. That is something that they're very, very committed to. We're seeing, you know, them working together. There's a lot of discussions behind the scenes. Of course, they met at Scotland just a few days before Harry arrived on these shores. So yeah, unity is definitely what's happening.
That does make me happy to hear. You mentioned the Princess of Wales. There are these new reports that she's going to be the mediator, she's going to bring the brothers back together. And I hear conflicting things. I also hear that William and Catherine are just focused on the future. Catherine wants to stay healthy and happy, and Prince William wants to protect their peace. Where do you stand with that? Is she trying to mediate things behind the scenes, or do you think that they are, you know, just focused on the now and looking ahead, and the past is the past, and Harry and Meghan are stuck in it?
Well, as I say in the book, there was a period where certainly Catherine did want to make peace for the brothers. You know, she was.
And this is pre-cancer, right?
Pre-cancer, well, yeah, way
Yeah.
back. I mean, you're talking sort of over 10 years ago. She could see the fractiousness that existed way before any of this in their relationship. You know, talk about brotherly squabbles. It was more than that. There was a different path set out for both of them, and it did create tension at times. And Catherine, it comes from a very, very tight-knit family. She gets on famously well with both her brother and her sister. We saw James doing the Three Peaks Challenge with her and just sort of embracing one another. I mean, that is a real foundation of her life, and family is very, very important to her, of course. And she also told William, you know, your blood is thicker than water a lot of the time, and you've got to try and mend these relationships, or at least have some sort of solid foundation for them. But I think things have moved on. You know, you know, every time that you look at the Prince and Princess of Wales, they've been very, very united. William has spoken about his pride for her. You know, he's absolutely in awe of her about how she's dealt with her cancer diagnosis. And again, people I've spoken to close to them say, you know, this is very, very much a case of looking towards the future now. You know, they don't want any of the distractions. They're not going to meet Harry and Meghan if they are to be here at the same time. Of course, there's a sadness to not meet their nieces and nephews, of course, but there are bigger things happening. And I think the King's health and his happiness, the future of the monarchy, and of course their family life is much more important to them.
I love the pictures that they posted recently of her children waiting there for her as she completed the Three Peaks Challenge, her mother and father standing there with Prince William and her brother, the dog. Of course, I love the dog. But you studied her so closely, you studied her so carefully and respectfully, I should stress, throughout the process of writing this book. Were you surprised when you saw that video pop up of her completing the Three Peaks Challenge? Are you like, no, this grit is within the pages of my book. She's capable of this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, right away, coming up to the end of last year when I stopped writing, I mean, there's people saying that she's doing great at the moment. She's feeling energized, and she definitely wants to get back to full-time duties, and also have a renewed sense of purpose. And that is exactly, having a real sense of purpose. You've got to do some training for it. You can't just pitch up and do this 24-hour mountain walk. But again, tying that in with something else, a bigger, grander purpose. It wasn't just, I'm feeling great again, I'm back to duties, looking forward to the future. Hopefully we'll see them in India later on in the year. But it was, what can I give back? It is the thanks that she wanted to demonstrate for the men and women, the doctors and nurses who had cared for her so diligently through her darkest period, but also to speak about it more candidly. And I think she's done that very, very subtly. She doesn't have to discuss what sort of cancer she had or how grueling the treatment was all the time. We've had little snippets of that when she's speaking to other cancer victims. And I think, what a wonderful ambassador she is for other people going through such a terrible, terrible time.
It's so true. And you mentioned she doesn't have to, divulge what type of cancer it was. And thank you for saying that, because I've recently seen a piece in the Daily Mail. God love them. They just won a court case. But I just saw that piece in the Daily Mail where somebody was critical of her for not telling the world what type of cancer it was, saying, she could save lives if she did. I mean, I think she continues to save lives with her actions today. I mean, we just saw her with cancer-stricken children this week. Do you ever get the sense, because this is your space, you do it for a living, but you also have to consume it because it's your job to consume this, that Catherine and William are just so squeaky clean that some of these people are just stirring the pot for clickbait?
I mean, that's one of the biggest frustrations of our job, isn't it? Because it is absolutely everywhere. There are quite a few, not very many of us who do this professionally, and even less of us who manage to get into the inner circles, understand them as people. And what often struck me writing the book is that they may be prince and princess living in castles and palaces and have all the trappings of wealth and privilege, and they don't have to move away from that. That is absolutely part of the job and part of their life. But they have exactly the same emotions as any of us do. They've gone through dark periods like most of us will go through in their lives. And certainly, William, when I discovered that he was absolutely devastated of Catherine's cancer, and of course his father's as well. Can you put yourself in his position? I mean, that is an extraordinary situation to be in. And yet he's got to think about his children, his wife, his father, his duty, his future. I mean, that is all encompassing. And I think that they might have this sort of squeaky clean persona, the presence of the sort of PR machine behind
the presence
them.
of perfection on them.
Absolutely, of course. And that is what people love about them, of course. But behind the veil, there is real people experiencing real emotions, and it can be devastating at times. And I think what we have seen from this family is very much a sense of togetherness and a sense of, not putting themselves out there all the time, being able to withdraw. And people, I think, have largely respected that. But apart from the clickbait, we're never going to get away from it. Yeah. But I think, trust your trusted sources. That's probably best.
Yeah, I always say, God love my mother. But I always say when she sends me something, I said, did you Google this and make sure
or she found it on Facebook.
Three other people are saying this? Or do we know who this TikToker is, Mom? They have somehow managed to excavate themselves from the Sussex circus. And I don't know how it's done. I mean, is it never complain, never explain? I don't think of William, I don't associate William with this chaos at all this week. I mean,
no.
And good for him, because it has been, in my opinion, incredibly embarrassing for Harry. And I don't think at all that William is attached. Unfortunately, King Charles, I feel like, is a little muddied through it because of the Buckingham Palace back and forth, and I should probably ask you about that. But the Prince and Princess of Wales are just so detached from these two. is it staying above the fray? How do they manage to do this?
Well, I think the concept of never complain, never explain was sort of extinguished when they went on the Caribbean tour, and explore this in the book about how, they were very, very wounded about their experiences there. I remember being on the tour, and there was these certain flashpoints. I mean, the tour overall was fantastic. They had great receptions, there was solid speeches, there was a real unity that they were trying to convey with the Commonwealth, of course, and we will see that in future tours, no doubt. However, there were certain flashpoints which we all know about. And William was the one, alongside Catherine, to go, listen, if we're not going to do this anymore. If there's things that we disagree with, we will speak about it. It is our future. We don't want to be considered as, white saviours or rulers. We want to be partners. And I've heard that myself with the King saying that when he was in Barbados. And so what I think is that we're seeing is a total evolution and and protecting their peace, really.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because there has been a coordinated effort with the palaces, get them out, being seen to do the work, right? And so this week was always going to be a circus, whether Harry came on his own, whether he never announced that Meghan and the children were going to be with him. It just got much worse than any of us envisaged. But
it really did.
What they can do is just be themselves, get on with the job, and just not get involved in this tit for tat and the noise. Harry has been in the press for so long now. I mean, protracted legal battles against the British media.
But then calling you and saying, "Could you please come cover
my
Invictus
speech?"
Yeah. I mean, you're the enemy, yet he needs to make sure you're there.
And it's a catch-22, of course, because the Invictus Games and charities such as Well Child,
we love that.
Absolutely, and they absolutely deserve to have a light shone on them. And I don't think any section of the press would ever sort of move away from that. And yet, what is everybody talking about this week? It's Harry's not staying at Buckingham Palace. It's the rudeness of not responding to the King and his aides, or the sort of the way that he left several hours before saying that he wanted to stay at Buckingham Palace. Regardless of all of this, this is just noise. It's got nothing to do with the mechanism of what the royal family do. And I think for William and Catherine, certainly, well, I know that they are very, very united in saying, this will burn out. It can't carry on. We've had several years of it, of course, but it can't carry on forever.
But it does feel like it's slowing down.
I think so, because after this, what does Harry have left? I mean, he can still rage about the government's decision.
He didn't slay them. They're
here.
Well,
he's had certain victories, but this is I think a very damaging and bruising experience for him. I think, speaking to people who were there yesterday, and colleagues of mine, he did look very bruised, and I think that it's time for him to probably just move away from all this drama now and try and
reevaluate.
I think so, because what more does he have? I mean, he's only 41 years old. He's got to have some form of career. The whole concept of you just railing against your family the whole time, people are bored of it. And I know certainly, of course, the family are as well, but I think by and large, the general public are very bored of it as well.
Are you concerned? Because when you were talking to me about how important these causes are, and they absolutely are, we love Invictus, we love Scotty's Little Soldiers, these are incredible causes. Are you concerned that the presence of Harry could negatively affect them, because Harry is currently being sued by Sanabale, and their argument is that he defamed them? And if you read Betrayal by Tom Bauer, he goes into detail about how they struggled to fundraise, and they hired investigators that provided analytics and proof that Harry and Meghan's decline, popularity-wise, was one of the reasons why they were struggling to find new people to donate to their cause. Inevitably, are people going to say, the type of attention you attract is not the type of attention we want?
Well, we heard from the chair of Sanabale, Sophie Chandelka, who was furious that Harry had brought Netflix cameras to a charity polo event without checking with the patrons and the people who were present on the day. They hadn't given their consent to be filmed. A lot of people didn't want to have any dealings with that. And when you were blurring the lines of your work and your financial contributions to your profile, I think that's where there is a problem, because your charity work must come first. If it is truly altruistic, then you can't be turning up with Netflix cameras that you'll pay tens of millions of dollars for to be their partners. And I think for the charities, it's a difficult situation because Harry obviously brings a great profile. He has had fantastic success with working for these charities, and no doubt people will still want to work with him. But I think, again, this whole drama, the angst, the fury needs to die down. I've often said this for many, many years. If he had disappeared into the sunset with Meghan and the children, and they just had a quiet life, people would have supported them. I think there was an awful lot of sympathy for his position. If he didn't want to be part of the royal family, then there would have been a groundswell of support for him to carve out a different role. But what has happened is he's made an awful lot of money of sort of tearing his family down and railing against an institution that he made the decision to leave behind.
Do you believe in Project Thaw?
Do I believe
in Project Thaw, this like concept that keeps
no, I mean, I don't. So I don't think there will be a situation, and even if there was, there
like,
certainly
you need to pause
now.
for applause. My audience is so happy you just said that. So pause for applause. You do not believe in Project Thaw. I mean, I really do. I couldn't believe how much this was being shoved down our throat.
No.
Do you think this is a campaign by somebody specific, or do you think, again, we've talked about clickbait? Common sense says there's no way you come back from tearing, repeating private text messages between the Princess of Wales in your book, tearing down your brother's physical appearance, talking about a physical fight. Common sense says there is no coming back from that at 100%. And then we have reporters saying, well, as long as they don't sell jam in the United Kingdom, they can come back and we'll treat them as royals.
I mean, that's the least of everyone's problem,
right?
Isn't it? I mean, because
we'll take the loose fruit spread.
I think everybody's got over the fact that Meghan and Harry are trading on their royal connections in order to make money. Everybody assumes that they will need an awful lot of money to maintain the lifestyle that they've become accustomed to.
Yeah.
Let's just look at the evidence. I mean, Harry talks about wanting meetings, apologies, but reconciliation from his family, with his family. And that is a long way off. I mean, the fact is, he can't muster to stay in the King's residence for one night during his stay. We'll wait and see whether he does meet up with the King this week. I'm told that the King has no intention of changing his diary to facilitate that meeting if it so happens.
A very nice exclusive from you.
Thank you.
Shared
but
that.
It may happen, but it will be on the King's terms if he so desires. And I think that, unfortunately, Harry didn't realise that being here in the UK, whilst this judgment came along, and I get, that was just a coincidence, I think, and I'm unfortunate for him, but he couldn't have stayed at a royal residence as a guest of the monarch when he was no doubt going to make a statement. And he's called it a whitewash. I mean, he's calling the legal profession in this country, where his father is the head of state, as a whitewash, as one of the most senior judges in the country. So, I have no doubt there is no desire to bring him back into the fold, and I think we are a long way off from that ever happening.
Yeah, and you said that in your book too. You spend a lot of time with the Prince and Princess of Wales. I love sharing your stuff on social media. Did you engage very often with Prince Harry when he was a working royal? Did you get...
Well, I joined this beat by accident.
Oh, tell me.
I was a sort of crime and terrorism journalist for about 12
God,
years beforehand.
What a transition.
And I'd been travelling sort of a lot.
Technically, you still are kind of covering terrorists, though. Meghan Markle is your beat.
I couldn't possibly comment, but it's sometimes you go from the sublime to the ridiculous in this job. But I mean, this job came up in about 2018 and the beginning of 2018, and my bosses asked me would I be interested. At first, I didn't think it was a great fit, and I said I'd help out for 6 months, and that was sort of we were leading up into the wedding, and the rest is history. I mean, we have seen an absolutely extraordinary period. Really interesting to speak to so many people in the book, because I wasn't around for the early years of Harry and William as adolescents, as young men, and by and large, people across the board said, what a period this has been. I mean, the last decade has been absolutely extraordinary. And Harry was a difficult customer because, again, you speak to some of my colleagues who've been doing this 20, 30 years. He was a very, very different individual. He would come and he would speak to the journalists. And I think by the time that he met Meghan, he had a very different opinion of the British press. And of course, we have seen him be very litigious against the institution. And we are where we are now, and I think that things could have been so different. I always feel a sense of sadness for Harry and Meghan. I think that there was a groundswell of support when they came onto the scene. I remember doing that incredible tour of Australia, Fiji, and I just felt that this could have been so much more for them. It just didn't need to be like this.
You posted this video where the Prince of Wales is like a secret handshake with a mascot.
I didn't know what to call this. I mean, it's not a dab.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
not. I was trying to ask some of my younger colleagues, what's like a handshake? Anyway, he was with a group of school children in West London, supporting them because it's the upcoming Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, and it's a Welsh school. And he was, what's the mascot's name is Finny, a unicorn. My children were absolutely delighted when I showed them, and he was showing a bit of a cool handshake. He needed a bit of a blow up at the end.
I know.
I mean, they seem to be having fun. You know, whatever they're doing. Of course, the Princess of Wales was at the Evelina Children's Hospital. One of the pillars of her work, of course, not only speaking about cancer, but having a real part in children's lives and the future of children's lives. But whenever I am seeing them, but by and large, they seem very, very dedicated, very, very committed to just blocking out the noise and getting on with the rest of their lives.
Would you say the Three Peaks Challenge is kind of like the most significant thing that has happened since you wrapped your book? Or would you say it's Prince William appearing on the Kelsey Brothers podcast?
Yes, of course, yeah. Well, I was very interested that he admitted that his father doesn't even like football or soccer to some of our...
Did you squirm a little bit?
Well, we always knew that we were told that the late Queen was an Arsenal fan, and of course he's an Aston Villa fan.
Yeah.
But for the King to hate it was quite strong. I think undoubtedly the Three Peaks Challenge, an incredible feat of endurance. I think what an amazing thing to have done with the Royal Marsden Hospital. She had great affection for, again, like I said, for the people who treated her, and trying to sort of push that forward and speak to more people who are going through this action. But what I would say, one of the biggest things of the last 6 months has been Catherine being in Italy, because I know that she was quite tentative, I would say, getting back to international duties. It was a long, long time. I mean, it's been 4 years since she's been on the international scene.
I'm going to ask a very mean question right now. It's my understanding that she was so popular in Italy that people were coming in from cities that far and wide to see her.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of the crowds for Harry's appearances here in the UK. I don't think you could compare. I don't think that, I mean, maybe even if William and Catherine did an engagement people knew about here, I just think that there is there's tangible evidence when it comes to the love that people feel for the Prince and Princess of Wales. And Harry and Meghan tell us that there's this hype around them. They need additional security because they're so popular. But I've not physically seen it with my own eyes. Am I being unfair?
Well, I think that, in fairness, I think that Harry has said that there are several, his security team have said that there's several terrorist plots against him. I mean, the security issue is very, very entrenched into, who Harry has become post leaving the royal family. It's very, very dear to him. We all want to protect ourselves, but, our overriding protection is for our family, and he feels very, very deeply about that. Again, I come back to the fact that none of this needed to happen. I mean, I remember being in Windsor, I remember doing engagements. Being in Australia, there were thousands upon thousands of people on the streets, outside engagements, turning up to outside the Sydney Opera House. I mean, these were the two rock stars of the royal family. And yet, they seem to have had quite a distinctive fall from grace. I mean, what I don't like in terms of how the royal job has evolved is how we are constantly sort of comparing and contrasting them. And I think,
Can I defend it that Meghan started it?
Well, I think, it was, what I found when I came into this job was that it was very, very tribal. That it was, there was sort of the Sussex fans or the Cambridge fans. things have moved on. Everyone has got more mature. Well, some people have got more mature, perhaps, but perhaps it will always be like that because it's become a bit of a soap opera. But
well, can I ask my next question? Please. Are you going to be mad at me because I'm comparing these two again? I wanted to stay on the podcast because we saw Prince William with Eugene Levy recently. We've seen Prince William with Travis Kelce and his brother talking about football, but you can't ignore the fact that this is dropped on the same day that Travis marries Taylor Swift. We're under the impression, strongly, that the Prince and Princess of Wales were invited to the wedding. We know that they met privately with Travis and Taylor when they were in London. How do the Prince and Princess of Wales navigate the A-listers, the Hollywood crowd, without degrading themselves? And I don't mean that in a critical way of Hollywood, but royalty on the totem pole does still strike as superior to celebrity, especially when you have to break down celebrity today, whether it's reality stars, influencers, or whatever. Royalty still remains at the top. Somehow, the Prince and Princess of Wales can sit down next to Emma Watson and can sit down, there's a great picture of Reese Witherspoon in The Princess of Wales where Reese Witherspoon almost has cartoon hearts coming out of her eyes. She's so excited. And I just think that it's really, it's a tightrope. And somehow William and Catherine managed to engage in the Hollywood world without becoming celebrities, without downgrading from the level that they are seen as. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does actually, because someone I spoke to for the book who has known William for well over 20 years and had worked with both of them as well, very, very closely. I asked them a very similar question, and I said, when you are so famous, you are the future king and queen, what impresses you? And what's it like for their inner circle? You look at William; he's still got friends that he had from school. Catherine's still got friends she had from school and university, and very, very close to her family. And I think when you have such fame and wealth and privilege, of course, you have to have that real foundations of your life. And you're not impressed by somebody who's the latest big thing in Hollywood. You're not impressed by somebody who's fabulously wealthy, such as a Bezos or a Zuckerberg. You are impressed.
Kardashian.
Yeah, Kardashian, yeah. You are impressed, and this is what the person told me. You are impressed with people who are genuine, and I think that they are very good judges of character. Again, come back to their friendship groups. They haven't courted publicity. They haven't chased the celebrity that other celebrities do all the time in order to stay relevant, because your relevance is very much embedded in how you present yourself and how you protect your future, which of course is the institution. And I think that they know themselves, and that's very, very important in today's world. We're constantly bombarded with social media or ways you can change yourself or how to get fit in 30 days or whatever. Yeah. I think you probably need to know yourself a little bit better. And certainly Catherine has been on this huge journey as William in the last couple of years, and they're definitely exploring that part of their futures as well.
Can I ask you about a myth that's really I'm calling it a myth, but a rumor that really frustrates me that continues to circulate pretty heavily in the States. And, there was a new book that came out by somebody else, and he goes into it, and I loathed the build of William as this angry guy with a chip on his shoulder that is just looking for a fight. I've heard that he's actually incredibly sensitive. He's a sweet guy. Are you seeing some of those rumors too? And what's the interpretation? You've researched this.
Yeah, I mean, I often come across this, and again,
what is it?
Like, dozens and dozens of people, almost 100 people I spoke to for this book, and I've never experienced that. I find them to be very, very genuine. Yes. As Catherine, whenever I've spoken to them on engagements or whenever we travel with them, and I think that what we see is what you get. Of course, William demands a high level of commitment from his team. He wants things to be fantastic. They work on the huge projects like Earthshot, like Homewards, Catherine with Early Years. What I did find is that he's a lot more sensitive. He was about to throw in the towel with Earthshot, and it was Catherine who said to him, listen, this could be great. You've just got to believe in it, believe in yourself. And that shows you what a united partnership they are. I mean, I didn't come into this project with any preconceptions. I've taken them on face value, reported on them for nearly a decade. But again, time and time again, it wasn't just people who worked for them and probably had a duty to try and uphold their reputations and their own. But it was also, close people in their inner circle, close friends of theirs, because in order to survive in this world, you've got to have, a right-hand man, woman, a person who has got your back all the time. And I think that what
about a dog, Russell?
Well, they've got a couple of dogs. They're very, very, very cute dogs as well.
Thank you.
And they're very supportive, supporting cast, perhaps. But what I did find is that they support each other for the big moments, whether that's working out this shot or future endeavours. But of course, when their backs are up against the wall, such as in the Oprah Winfrey interview, such as when the Netflix series comes out, or Spare, and they are being targeted, there is absolutely, they could have flown off the handle. They could have fought fire with fire. And I think they both support each other in taking a step back when one needs the other needs the support. And that's what a great relationship that is. I mean, arguably, again, a lot of people said to me that Catherine was the stronger of the two throughout her cancer treatment. She was the one to really recognise that she had to take a step back, whereas William had an awful lot on his plate. She was the one to say, listen, we're going to take a step back, work out what we're going to do as a family, and then we'll present ourselves to the world.
Yeah, she is so strong, and I adore her. What's your prediction with Earthshot? Because it's a home run. I mean, and it's my understanding, we're 5 years in, there's 5 years to go. Do you think once we hit that 10-year mark, everybody's going to look at each other and go, let's keep going?
Well, undoubtedly. I mean, it's, what do you got? We got India coming up. There's certainly talk that he wants to get to China. No doubt they will get to Australia. The States, I mean, that would be great. A big tour in the States. I think that's a long time coming. I mean, it might not coincide with Trump's term of office. I'm sure he'd love to invite them over and host them. But I think we're very much due a big tour for the Prince and Princess of Wales in America. But what William is very much committed to doing is, I mean, he sees this 10 years as a foundation. Again, they're young. I can say that because I'm their age.
We're hoping.
But he sees this as something that, okay, now we've done the foundation. Now we've put everything in motion for these innovators and scientists who are working on these amazing inventions. To really then kick on, to set this program up, to then say, okay, well, when we can do more with Earthshot in the future, then it's a ready-made vehicle to put the philanthropists in touch with people who are doing their best to make the world a better place.
And when you look at Earthshot, and you mentioned that the tour in Jamaica, which went south, primarily from outside voices that just were trying to cause trouble on the internet, but I do think it had real-world consequences. Earthshot is kind of a solution or an alternative because he throws these incredible events. You've got all of these A-listers that are clamoring to be there and clamoring to be associated with him, and that amplifies the message. So, I mean, I know that people love to see them in real life, but the return on investment when it comes to Earthshot and the way that people cover it, I think it does compare to a physical, grueling tour, and you do that in just a few, it's the lead up, just a few days, a huge night. You can turn on the TV and watch it, which is so fun as well.
Around the world. I mean, it's a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
Just on that point about the Caribbean tour, there was of course a lot of outside noise, but I remember being on it, and I've been criticised in the past of sort of whipping up the fury. But we reported it as we saw it, and I remember thinking that those flashpoints that we all know about were serious errors at the time.
Yeah.
And again, I explore in the book about how that they felt that they were errors. They felt that they were underprepared, that they vowed, we're never going to do this again. If there's something we don't feel right about, like not turning up to the field to speak to the farmers and the community in Belize, not having a chance to speak to perhaps the protesters, maybe being a bit more savvy when they got ambushed in Jamaica by the Prime Minister.
Who
All
was
of these
later
things,
photographed with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry at the Bob
well,
Marley
yeah, I
premiere.
mean, some things you can't legislate for. But I think, again, we are seeing an evolution. I mean, this was 4 years ago. There's been an awful lot of things that have happened then. Their position has been elevated within the royal family,
Yes.
from the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge to Princess of Wales. They are the future of the monarchy, and they need to be a lot more responsible for their actions. And certainly we found that with the Cambridge Way and the way that they sit down with their team. They are very, very in the weeds of the details. And it'd be really interesting to see what happens in India, because that's a big diplomatic mission as well. Britain needs great trade relations and diplomatic relations with the Indian demonstration. Administration.
Yes.
And so, for William and Kate, I think it needs to be very much a case of, looking towards the future and being very, very confident when you're going into those situations.
Well, I mean, we saw the royal family's magic touch with King Charles in DC. I mean,
oh God! I mean,
Keir
it's great.
Starmer, Donald Trump at war, enter King Charles, and it's rainbows and sunshine.
For sure, I mean, that is, we talk about soft power diplomacy. We get these phrases sort of trumpeted out from time to time, but that is it in action.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't want anyone else other than the King to do that. I mean, I was in the Congress when he made that speech, just phenomenal, and to see both sides of the House giving standing ovations, 13, I think we counted, 12 or 13. It's just extraordinary.
Did you get up too?
I was busy working.
Oh, yeah. You were like, I got my knees.
Yeah. There was a picture of me sort of hanging over the balcony to see the King.
Oh,
it
that's
looked
right.
like I was falling over it.
It did. That was hilarious.
Yeah, but again, I'm very privileged to be part of that and to witness history, because talk about taking the sting out of the Trump machine,
right,
and all the rhetoric that had come before it.
Right.
King Charles played an absolute blinder.
He did. He was phenomenal on that trip. Can I ask you what your sources are saying about the Buckingham Palace back and forth? Do you think Harry ever truly intended to stay there? And we're wrapping up. I saved the best for last. I'm sorry to keep going here. But, will there always be mystery surrounding how this unfolded? Because I'm hearing that they were never really going to stay there. I think I've predicted that this was all to reposition them as the victims and put King Charles in the bad guy category again, because that's been very lucrative for them financially, truly, in the United States. What's your understanding of everything that's unfolded in the last few days?
Well, before we come into that, I mean, I still cannot believe what has happened, because none of this...
Like, we need a nap.
It's incredible, because why on earth would you announce that your wife and children were coming over to the UK?
Are you scared? Are there safety concerns?
For sure.
Then keep your mouth shut.
Because you did not have the go-ahead, regardless of whether his team thought they'd had the nod, wink situation that I understand that they thought. They didn't have any position to do that. The Home Office had not responded to his request. There was never any change in sort of the mood music coming out of the Home Office. I've spoken to people in the government, and they felt railroaded into making a decision. I mean, why on earth would the Home Secretary, who's fighting fires all over the world, feel that there was a precedent to make a decision for Harry coming over to the UK, and then having to change his mind 24 hours later? The situation with Buckingham Palace, I think, still remains a mystery, because I've spoken to people at the palace, and they said, he said that he didn't want it. They were asking him for weeks as to whether he was coming. It was right up to the last minute. He said that he wasn't going to come, and then just a few hours later said that he was going to stay. Perhaps he spoke to his father, and his father said, "Don't worry, son. I'll square it." And then that didn't get communicated to some people. Whatever it is, I think that Harry...
the court case, I mean, that did change the logistics.
And Harry's people are saying that there's several things that they weren't happy with. The fact that it had been communicated that Harry did want to stay, and then the palace was blaming the fact that he was late in his reply. again, it comes back to common decency, because you can't roll into these places. They've got security details, they've got staff that they have to, put on the rota. I still find it incredible that they couldn't find him a bed for the night. However, I think the overriding case was the fact that this court judgment was going to be handed down, and you couldn't have a situation for the king constitutionally where he was going to undoubtedly produce a statement, whatever way the wind blew for him, whilst he was a guest of the king at Buckingham Palace. So,
oh my God.
he was on Airbnb, no doubt, to try and find somewhere to stay. I mean, that in itself is incredible,
exactly.
isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I think as you were saying that, I was thinking about the video he takes at the very beginning of the Harry and Meghan Netflix series, where he's like, we're about to embark on our freedom flight. What if he had chosen to, with a large portrait of Queen Elizabeth II behind him in Buckingham Palace, get on his cell phone and just rage against the court system? You don't know what he's going to do. He's unpredictable.
Unpredictable. I think what is undoubtedly true is there has been a lot said on both sides that people would regret. Unfortunately for Harry, a lot of things that he said are public, and they produce opinions, and they've produced an awful lot of money for him. And people have really, whoever may have had sympathy, and I'm sure there are still.
They're not watching the show. So
I think it's a lot of people still do have sympathy for him. I
Yeah.
find his behaviour quite incredible a lot of the time, and I think that if you do want a new relationship, if you want reconciliation with your family, then this isn't the way to go about it. So maybe the bruising experiences of the last few days may decide to draw a line under all of this.
And can I ask, what motivated the palace to be so frank with us? Because we rarely get a timeline or the amount of details that we received this week regarding Harry's refusal, then coming back, and the palace even explaining to a certain extent, well, the court, an issue that we're having is the fact that this verdict is coming down, but also saying, like, logistically, we are going to have to bring in a team. Also, they were prepping for a family of 4 and a hospitality and staff for a family of 4 plus entourage.
And it's still a building site.
Yeah,
we've been into the palace.
Site, yeah.
It's not just all gleaming on the inside. There's parts of it looking great at the moment.
You needed a hard hat the last time you were in there.
Yeah, a little vest, a luminous vest. I think that what has been very, very frustrating for the palace is this constant flip-flopping, this again the attempts to potentially railroad other people, whether that was the king, whether that's his aides, the institution, the government, into making decisions that fitted Harry and his narrative. I need protection, so I'm going to jump the gun, and that's exactly what they did. There was no change in the Home Office's decision. There was no reason for him to make that announcement that the family were going to come, and they could have totally come. They could have come. They could have stayed at Buckingham Palace. They could have got an escort in and out of that palace. Perhaps they could have stayed at Windsor Castle. That's hugely protected. It's confined within the walls of a castle. They could have easily stayed somewhere like that. It didn't need to be like this, did it? Come back to this time and time again. But I think what the palace wanted to do was trying to sort of clear the decks a little bit, to say, it hasn't really worked like that. We have made this offer of accommodation. We didn't hear for weeks. Meanwhile, he was making public statements to his spokesman constantly, and having to backtrack on those. So
it's a weird time, right?
Oh, it's huge. It's incredible, absolutely. And I've often thought about how throughout this whole saga with the Sussexes leaving and everything that's happened over the last few years, how many more depths to this relationship can there be? And unfortunately, I think that we know that the relationship between Harry and William is at rock bottom. It's been like that for many, many years. And I think there will be a lot to try and repair relations with the king after this, because the king does not need this drama. Harry said in his book, the king said to both his sons, "Do not make my last years a misery." And unfortunately, it must be very, very stressful.
Well, that would have been a great place to end this interview, but one more question. Do you think we'll see Meghan, or do you think that the loss is a loss she doesn't want to be associated with, so she's going to lay low?
I wish that, I'm sort of done making predictions.
You and I are done.
Because,
let's call this Cleo.
I didn't think she would ever come.
Agreed.
And then when I've recently discovered that she's very much within the detail of the Invictus Games. She has taken quite an interest in Harry's work with the Invictus Games, and why wouldn't she? I mean, it's a great
good cause.
it's a great cause. It's a great endeavour. There's something she could add to it. I remember being in Sydney where she, I think it was Sydney, when she came on stage and she spoke to the troops, and she's done that before. I'm not going to say. I mean, it could fall either way. But again, maybe that would shift her being on stage in Birmingham would shift the focus off of Harry and the decisions he's made and the cases that he's lost this week. So it might just be what they needed. But I cannot see how there'll be a meeting between the Sussexes and the King. Maybe Harry and his father, but maybe for another time.
William and Catherine, the monarchy's new era. My favorite's on audio. I'm loving my audio version, but it's going to be updated, which gives us something to look forward to. And I can't wait to see what intel you get about the
For sure, yeah.
challenge.
It's been a period of time. So paperback's out in February, so better get writing.
Your fan club awaits. We can't wait to get it. Russell Myers, what a blessing it was
Thank
to
you
meet
so
you
much.
in real life.
Wonderful.
And congratulations on all of your success.
And you too.
I enjoy so much following you on Instagram. And if you don't follow Russell on Instagram, I share his posts almost daily, so you probably should. And yeah, you're a delight. You have such a great positive energy, and it was really nice to meet you in real life and see that you're as authentic as you've seemed over the years.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you, Kinsey.
Thank you. All right, agree with us, disagree with us. We prefer when you agree with us. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I'm Kinsey Schofield.